When I finished my lunch, which I don't even remember what I had by the time this video will be uploaded, I turned on the TV to see any news about the global pandemic. By the way, please stay safe. Then, feeling quite underwhelmed by it, I started zapping through the channels, cause yeah, who still uses the cable, am I right? Hoping to watch a decent movie which are quite rare to find on TV. To my surprise, when I scrolled down to NBC2, I was quite surprised by the intro of Fox Searching Light, which was displayed on the screen. Then it transitioned to a dark sky, in which stars were shining brighter than diamond. At the moment, I thought it would be a movie about Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's book, The Little Prince. Then, after some narration, surprise, surprise, a white-hued Dancy appears out of nowhere. By the way, this video will be containing spoilers, or spoiler alert. Basically, the movie follows the narrative of a young man named Adam, who is diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, and the struggles he faced with having this syndrome. The movie starts off with Adam at his father's funeral, and how now he spends his days eating mac and cheese alone in his big-ass apartment in New York City, and working at a toy-making company as an electronic engineer. But later on, he gets fired, so yeah, there's that. Days later, a young woman named Beth moves into the apartment above him. They meet at the laundry room, and we got to see Mr. Dancy shirtless with a blazer. They strike up friendly discussions whenever they meet, each one weirder than the previous. Adam shows Beth his love for astrology and space, his inability to understand the atmosphere, and finally his incapacity to determine whether Beth was sexually excited. Yeah, pretty awkward. After their many interactions, Beth notices his strange behavior, then later on, Adam tells her his condition, which is Asperger's syndrome. For those who don't know Asperger's syndrome, including myself before watching this movie and having to educate myself on it, this syndrome is part of autism spectrum disorder. It is a developmental disorder of neurobiological origin that affects boys more frequently than girls. Asperger's syndrome mainly affects the way people communicate and interact with others, which results in difficulty coordinating movement and in locating oneself in time and space. People with dementia have difficulty understanding the abstract and emotions, however, they are able to experience feelings such as love, but in a different way. Downhill when Beth, who now got much closer to Adam and established a romantic relationship with him, organized a date with her father at the theater, then accidentally meeting her parents there. Marty, her father, got himself into legal trouble. In a naive effort to make small talk, Adam asks Marty about the details of his alleged crimes, which does not go well with Beth. Later on, after receiving a call from Beth's mother telling him that Marty was losing his case and he's going to jail, discovers that Beth and her father orchestrated an accidental meeting. Adam, who felt his trust being broken, angrily accuses Beth of being a liar, shocked by his harsh words, telling her that he hopes that her father goes to jail, that she is a liar like her father. Beth points out his childish behavior and storms out the apartment. While Beth was away at her parents' house, Adam gets a call with a job offer in California to work at a satellite navigation company. He then goes to Beth, apologizes for his behavior, and asks her to go to California with him. Marty objects to this, telling him that her family needs her, and him and Beth argue, calling him a cheater and a liar and telling him that he can't make a decision for her, and finally returns to her apartment with Adam. Beth, who's now helping Adam packing his stuff, asks him why he wanted her to come with him. Not seeing the opportunity to express his feeling for Beth, Adam lists practical ways in which she would help him. Beth concludes that Adam is not in love with her, but only needs her to help him. She tells Adam she cannot go with him. A year later, Adam is working at the observatory, where he needs interest in space telescopes, and his eidetic memory have made him successful and fulfilled in his job. He has also seemingly learned to pick up on social cues and pushes himself to join social situations. He received a package from Beth containing her first published children's book. Inspired by Adam and Asperger's syndrome, he reads the first pages in which Beth uses anthropomorphisms raccoons, which both saw at Central Park in the early stages of their relationship, to represent Adam and his family. Adam looks deep in thought in this moment of clarity seems to bring him closer to Beth, and he smiles in happiness. I want to do analysis about this movie, which is clearly underrated and brings light to Asperger's syndrome, which is a condition that is not much talked about. There is 10 well-known characteristics about Asperger's syndrome, and if there's more, tell us about them in the comment section. Intellectual or artistic interest. Many of the diagnosed Aspergerians will have at least one particular field of intellectual or artistic interest and talent. They show great skill in their area of interest at an early age and proceed to effectively excel at it in life. Because of his condition, Adam has difficulty communicating and likes to escape into his love of space, his fixation on detail, repetitive behavior, or the knowledge in the history of Broadway. Poor social skills. Because of their limited field of interest and low emotional ability, Aspergerians feel isolated through most of their childhood and into adulthood. Aspergerians do try to make friends, but they are often either temporarily successful or completely unsuccessful due to the lack of social skills. In the end, they sometimes display a lack of interest or even curiosity for the discussion, thoughts, and opinion of the people they temporarily befriend.
I know, look at her.
Yeah, she is. We have a video, of course. Would you like to see the video?
No, thank you. Where's the bathroom?
Down the hall, second right.
I'd love to see the video.
Not socially driven. On one hand, being socially driven can be a great source to gain personal motivation in this ever-increasingly social world. On the other hand, this can be considered drawback in certain situations. This is not a hurdle likely entered by those with Asperger's, as social concerns are often lower on this population's priority list with many others. High integrity. Another key trait that many with Asperger's have, that many others admire, is their high level of integrity. Many with this condition do not get involved in complex and unnecessary drama and do not play head games with others. They can be quite straightforward in their intentions and loyalties. This in itself is a great feature to have in a personal friend, partner, business associate, employee, and so on. Masters of routine. Yet one more excellent characteristic found in most individuals diagnosed with Asperger's is that of regime and a great propensity to flourish in matters of routine and patterns. Whether the average person may struggle to confront to certain routines or components of certain routines, Aspergerians will typically take quite well to such patterns and make significant strides therein. The benefits of this propensity are also many. Speech differences. Speaking differences such as lack of verbal rhythm, monotone pitch, and a peculiar inflection on certain words impact most Aspergerian children. Adult Aspergerians have the same characteristics, since many do not outgrow it. They are often unable to control the voice's volume according to the surrounding. This is not uncommon to hear Aspergerians speak loudly in quiet places such as a place of worship or a library. In Adam's case, he doesn't know what's inappropriate or not in discussion, and his voice rises up each time he speaks about his interests.
Light waves collected from the same source, a star, for instance, and the waves form an interference pattern as they add together or cancel out, add together, cancel out. It's what we call constructive interference or destructive interference, so that the light from two or more telescopes can produce a brighter image than one alone.
Delayed motor development. Some children with Asperger's syndrome have delayed motor development with fine and gross motor skills. Children with delayed fine motor skills may struggle to hold a pencil correctly or when grasping objects with their fingers. This characteristic varies widely and can be seen in both mild and more severe cases. The development of harmful psychological problems. The potential for the development of harmful psychological disorders typically occur during puberty or immediately thereafter. The most common disorders are anxiety and depression. Unfortunately, young Aspergians have high rate of suicide that may be directly related to anxiety and depression. The only other demographic with a high rate of suicide are teenagers, transgender, and homosexual individuals.
I hope your father goes to jail forever. I hate you.
What?
He's guilty. Your mother called, and he's a liar like you, and he's going to jail. I hate you.
Your child, Adam.
Detail-oriented. Many of the above-mentioned traits are not always the easiest to deal with, but there are also many great traits that can accompany the initial step on the autism spectrum. Orientation that is above the likes of the average person is one of the most very useful perks. There are countless occupations, sports, hobbies, and other pursuits in which a high degree of attention to detail directly translates to the potential for great success. Persistence. No matter what pursuit one may choose to take in life, one of the most important underlying attributes that can help in all things is persistence. The ability to persist where many others might fail is a common perk to having Asperger's. Accomplishing the mission at nearly any cost and weathering any kind of storm can truly get someone to incredible places vocationally and personally. The movie premiered in Sundance Film Festival in 2009. It got the award of Alfred P. Sloan's Prize, yet it got critics in the audience pretty divisive. One of the critics of Super Review quoted, "The love story is sweet, and what ultimately needs to happen in order for Adam to grow socially happens, but the representation of Asperger's syndrome is pretty formulaic. Symptoms are hit, and everything is explained a little too much. I wish we could have read the rest of Beth's Raccoon book. The movie is almost there, but not quite. I don't think that we need more elements in the ending. Those first lines from the book were enough to understand that the story was about Adam. It's not a perfect ending, but a nice one in my opinion. If you think about endings in movies or games as well, some will enjoy it, some will feel betrayed and unsatisfied. The thing that bothered me a little bit is how Beth was angry against Adam when he was asking her father about the lawsuit. There is no empathy about his condition from her, yet she was mad at him and she started to insult him, which is kinda harsh. I mean, she's a school teacher, she must know how to behave correctly, either with children or a man-child. Adam contains impressive performances and challenging material, but the movie loses most of its appeal when it tries to be more than the complex romance it could have been. Instead of exploring the character and the central relationship, our connection to Adam and Beth it is lost in unfinished chaos and the fights with her father. All the movie needed was to be a romance that strikes by the main character's Asperger's and how those two work through the inherent complications. Adam in the end is a small introduction to Asperger's syndrome that teaches the audience how to behave with the affected. It warms your heart and lets you be accepting of the differences of each other and moving on when you have basically no choice and hoping for the better. A good movie, basically.